Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Associate Pastor David Fuchs from the Fellowship of the Parks in Keller. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Please bow your heads. God, today we thank you. We thank you for your grace and mercy. Father, as we bow before you in appreciation, we're humbled to be in your almighty presence, Lord. We thank you for your benevolence and blessing to be given the opportunity to live in a free land, given the freedom to worship you. In your holy word, you remind us you are King of Kings. In Psalm, you tell us that you will reign forever and will judge the world with justice and rule the nations with fairness. Father, we thank you for these elected officials and the community that are represented here today. We ask for your will to be done here. For the things brought before this court today, may they be judged with justice and fairness. God, today we would be remiss if we didn't honor the memories of all those who have given sacrificially throughout the history of our great land to protect our shores from the enemy. Their love of our nation embodies the love you had for your son Jesus, a willingness to save others by faithfully sacrificing themselves. We are forever indebted to them. Lord, I thank you for the opportunity to enjoy freedom as a citizen of Fort Worth, in Tarrant County, and the great state of Texas, here in these United States of America. To you be all glory, Father. It is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I, the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Pastor, for delivering the invocation today. And I want to, mention at this time, especially kind of in lieu of the invocation, yesterday was Memorial Day, and I had an opportunity to attend the celebration and the service at Mount Olivet. It was the 82nd observation of Memorial Day there at Mount Olivet. And I think it's important, as Captain Smyers delivered the keynote address yesterday, and he mentioned during that address that there are really 3 times during the year that we really celebrate and display the flag. Veterans Day, when we commemorate all those who served, the 4th of July, when we celebrate our independence, and then Memorial Day. And that one is one that is special because during that service we are honoring those folks who made the supreme sacrifice, who sacrificed their lives so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we do, for the fact that we can come here and meet, that we can pledge, that we can worship, that we can do all those things which we as individuals choose and want to do. During the service, he also mentioned that this morning that they would be welcoming home the body of Private Andrew Mark Krippner. Private Krippner was of Garland and was killed on May 23rd, 2011, when his Army vehicle hit an IED in the Kunar province of Afghanistan. His remains are scheduled to be flown from Dover Air Force Base today and are expected to arrive at the Naval Air Station at 10:30 a.m., where he will be received by his family in a private ceremony. Private Krippner was part of the 2nd Battalion, 27th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 25th Infantry Division, based in Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. He had been in Afghanistan for 6 weeks and had just celebrated his 20th birthday. Private Krippner was born in Chickasha, Oklahoma on April 22nd, 1991. He lived in Apache and Fairmont, Oklahoma, Dexter, Missouri, and then in Garland, Texas for the last 13 years. He graduated from June Shelton School and enlisted in the Army during the summer before his senior year. Among Private Krippner's medals were the Army's Medal for Enlisting in Time of War, the Worldwide Fight Against Terrorism, a medal for shooting, grenade launching, and the Combat Infantry Badge. Private Krippner loved the Army and considered it his honor to serve our country. When asked, "Why do you go? Why do you have to go?" he responded, "Why don't you want to go?" Private Krippner will be interred with full military honors on Friday at 3 p.m. on June 3rd at the DFW National Cemetery. He is among 6,013 casualties from the Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, including 103 North Texans who have made the ultimate sacrifice since March of 2003. So, if you wouldn't mind, we'll close today in memory of Private Andrew Mark Krippner, and if you would, join me in just a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Manius, agenda announcements.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two announcements as it relates to the agenda. The first one is under facilities, item 8E1. We're actually going to hold that particular item until after we receive the briefing. Today you've obviously seen the pictures and the renderings that are out in the hallway. Mr. Phillips will be discussing that with you, and then we'll take action as it relates to the first item under facilities. Also, members of the court, in your folder this morning, there is a legislative issues memorandum. Mr. Mendez provided that yesterday, and we were able to give that to you this morning. And then finally, and this is in conjunction with the facilities area, that briefing is, we anticipate that briefing to be about 30 to 40 minutes long. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of May the 24th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Fickus. Motion passes unanimously. You have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Today we have a public hearing. Ms. Lamb, if you'll come forward.
While she's coming, might I mention how glad we are to see our colleague, Commissioner Fickus, back this morning, looking so well.
Well, this side looks all right.
Call him Scarface from this side.
Yeah.
The fact that we can see you at all is a blessing, considering what you went through.
I'm glad to be back.
Thank you.
Ms. Lamb.
I'm here this morning to ask that Commissioners Court conduct a public hearing to consider the placement of no truck signs on Dock Garrison Road and Groton Road. Both roads are located in Precinct 2. This is in response to a situation we've encountered where we have Hudson Cemetery Road is signed for no trucks, and these two roads dead into that, and so we'd like to sign them for no trucks as well.
I'll open the public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter.
I just want to raise one question. Commissioner Wynn called me about this a few weeks ago, and I told him, you know, we've got a road out there in my precinct that I've been told by your department we couldn't put no truck signs, or we can't enforce no truck signs on that road. What's the difference?
Is it North Fork? Do you know which one?
No, it's the one that goes off of Business 287. I think it's...
I'll be glad to get back with staff when I get back to the office and talk with your staff and figure out which road it is and why we would have said that. A lot of times the reason we can't put no truck signs is because it's the only way in and out, or if there's a truck that there's a business at the end of that road that's their destination, then we have to allow that truck to their destination. In this case, we have an alternative route for the trucks to take, so they do not have to go down these two residential streets. may be the difference. I'd have to go back and look at your instance specifically.
We'll look at it together.
Yes, sir, I will.
I think it may be Bates Aston that I was thinking about.
Oh, Bates Aston could be one. That's true. We had that problem in Bates Aston, but I'll be glad to review that.
There being no one here to speak publicly, we'll close the public hearing and see if there's any action that wants to be taken at this time.
Are you?
Yes, this is when you make your motion.
I make the motion to approve to place the no truck sign on those two roads.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Honor Members of the Court. We have two additional items under our section that we'd like to bring to you this morning. The first, we're requesting that the Commissioners' Court approve a resolution providing for the county's consent to the sale of the property, which is located at 518 Worthway Drive, which has been held in trust by the Arlington ISD for the lowest bidder, or for the bidder listed on your court communication.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there, well, on something like this, we always check, do we have the royalties or we don't? And
I don't believe that we're allowed to take royalties on this, but if in fact there are royalties that have been taken by the district, then what we do, we make sure that we assign our pro rata share.
okay.
And of course, just a note to the court, even while we sell this at this particular value, what it does, it puts this property back on the tax roll. And it's been off the tax roll for a while, so it puts it back on the tax roll for payment of taxes.
But I guess ultimately my question is who retains the royalty interest? Is it the person who had the property when it was foreclosed? If it comes with the property, does the purchaser then end up acquiring those royalty interests?
Need to ask the DA on that.
It's you.
Yeah, I know, but it depends on about 5 things that we don't have here in front of us right now. I don't know whether, one, the property in question, they actually own the royalty interest, and I don't know whether it was a producing well either, or whether there's any production on it. You can actually seize that for non-payment of taxes. But the traditional approach has been that this property is not being was not seized for a royalty interest, and the royalty interest, bizarrely, would seem to remain with the otherwise foreclosed property owner, which is, I think, if I recall correctly, a bizarre outcome. But I have to look back at that AG opinion. It's from back in the 50s or 60s, and I haven't
That
looked
should
at
be
it.
perfectly clear to all of us now.
Let me suggest that as we go, we'll come back to you on both of these issues as it relates to your question, Your Honor, and we'll make sure that as we move forward with these type of actions by the Commissioners Court, that we clearly state in the communication issues concerning the royalties.
And I guess another question is, I was driving down 121 and seeing them taking all of that land. I know we've taken all that land and we've purchased that land along 121 and then turned it over to the state. Who do the landowners again retain the royalty interest in that? Does the state end up getting it? What if they didn't think about retaining it when they
The state gets it,
we buy it, the state gets it?
yes.
Sounds like a great deal, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's the way state government works.
Moving right along.
Okay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Members of the Court, on item number 2, this is a sale for closed property also. This is located at 1524 Swan Court and 1945 Michael Court, which has been held in trust by the Azle ISD. Staff is requesting that the Court approve this action.
I'll move approval with the understanding that y'all are going to check the mineral rights.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Second,
We have a motion and a second.
with the same understanding.
Yes, sir.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Step, nope.
Nope.
Mr. Bartel,
On her behalf.
on her behalf.
Just have the April 2011 financial statements that we would request the court receive and file.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Worthy.
We request that you receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Brewer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Public Health has one item for your approval, and this is an amendment of number 2 for the FY 2011 Public Health Department fee schedule.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Brewer,
Yes.
what's the status of our attempts to acquire shingles vaccine?
It's in short supply and heavy demand as usual.
Do we have a plan?
Just try to get it when we can.
I guess one other question before Lou, before you head back, and I mean, on the fee schedule, when we look at setting the new fees, do we check and look at what comparable fees there are with other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're comparable with the other counties, surrounding counties at this time?
Surrounding counties? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, members of the court, we have 3 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2011-101. This is a bid for the purchase and installation of an emergency generator for disaster recovery through Resource Connection, Building 2300. Recommendation would be to award the second low bidder, Facility Solutions Group, in the amount of $110,399.66. If approved, we're seeking contract approval as well as acceptance of the payment and the performance bond. The low bid that we received from Stovall Electric did not include the rock work required, and they sent us a letter asking to rescind their bid.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number 2 is another bid award recommendation for bid number 2011-096. This is a bid for the sale of recycled paper. Our recommendation would be to award a per enterprise basis to the high bidders, Green Star Recycling for the newsprint, the rate of $85 a ton. Evergreen Fiber Sales for the mixed ledger, $292 a ton. And the cardboard at $142 a ton.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is an item in regards to bid number 2011-077. This is our annual contract for hot applied crack sealing, which was approved by Commissioner Court March 3, 2011. We're asking the court to rescind that court order 110327 based on the need to revise the specifications to be more in line with TxDOT requirements, and are seeking permission to rebid with those revised specifications.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion
Wait. What year of the annual contract are we in?
For this one,
Uh-huh.
this would be the first year, I believe. Let me look and be sure. This was a new bid, which again we approved on the 3rd of 2011. The specifications over time, there were 2 bids that were received. We had a question from the secondary vendor. This is another one of those items that there was no competition years ago. We are asking to rescind that award on May 3rd to revise the specifications to mirror the TxDOT specifications, which will allow both vendors to bid fairly.
We were not aware of the TxDOT specifications.
Our specifications, if you remember the gentleman that came to court a couple of 3 weeks ago, these items, the specifications were old. They just addressed the one vendor, basically. We're trying to make it a fair playing field, is all we're doing.
All right.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Green.
Your Honor, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve the conveyance of 4,000 square feet of land described in Volume 235, page 42 of the deed records of Tarrant County, Texas, being a tract of land out of Lot 1, Block 2 of the original town of Keller, formerly known as Athol, to the City of Keller for off-street parking along Lamar Street and Hill Street, and approve the resolution and deed without warranty. The deed reserves the minerals, and this is a 4,000 square foot piece of property that's in behind the old city town hall that appears to just be a vacant tract that the city is needing to do some off-street parking so that they can facilitate some of the merchants in that area.
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
Has this been approved by the DA's office? Move approval of item 8M, 1A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Appointments. You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Mayes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have 2 items to bring to you today. The first one is the update regarding the design development of the new Civil Courts building. Mr. Phillips is here to address the Court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The purpose of this briefing is to present the Civil Courts Building project, design development drawings, and total capital budget to Commissioners Court. First, I will provide you an overview of the project and discuss the capital budget as well as an ad alternate. We will do at bid time. Then Kirk Milligan with HOK Architects will present the floor plans and the exterior and interior design work. This project will actually be a 7-level, 232,000 square foot building that will be constructed on Block 11 here downtown Fort Worth, Texas. This particular building will provide space for our 10 current civil district courtrooms and provide space for 2 future courts. In addition, on the second floor, there will be space for a large, unassigned courtroom that will be used for multi-litigant complex trials. Office space will be provided for the 8th Administrative Judicial Region, as well as the district clerk, staff that will be supporting the civil courts. As well, we'll be providing space for the jury services in this building as well. The base project will provide for all interiors to be finished out except for the top floor, which will be done as an ad alternate. And as it relates to being earth-friendly, this building is scheduled to be our 4th LEED certified building.
Excellent.
The total capital budget for this project is the number I gave you last year, which is $73.6 million. Inside of that $73.6 million, the construction cost of the project itself is expected to be $56 million. The balance of it is professional fees, utility work, site work, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. We plan to bid this project in the fall of this year. When we bid the base project, we'll be bidding an add alternate in addition. This add alternate is for the interior finish out of the top floor for the Court of Appeals space. I expect the total capital budget associated with this add alternate to be approximately $3.6 million. That includes the actual interior finish out construction cost, all the furniture, fixtures, and equipment associated with occupying that space.
And should we do this add alternate based upon your existing estimate of the cost, where will that put us in comparison with the amount that was in the bond issue?
Commissioner, the 2006 bond program allowed for $62.3 million for the civil courts project. We are making up the difference between that and the 73.6, which is the base project, and essentially interest earnings. Now, if we hope to be able to buy this project out lower, this building out lower than $56 million. And if we do, that'll help you make decisions this fall about how we move forward with the Court of Appeals. Hopefully we can make up a little bit of a difference there, and it won't be such a high jump to get over and get this top floor bought out and built.
So the hope is that we'll buy out the building cheaply enough to add in the add alternate and still stay within the $73 million price tag.
Yes, Commissioner, are very close.
David, I think I'm following you here. We're going to build this as a 7-floor building.
Yes, Commissioner.
It's just a matter of whether we're going to finish out the top floor or not finish it out. Is that right?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yes. And when we finish it out, it's the timing of it.
Okay.
Yes. I'd like to introduce Kirk Milliken with HOK Architects. He will be presenting the floor plans and the design of the building.
Judge, Commissioners, good morning. Before I get started, I need to recognize two other members of the design construction team who are with me today. That's Dennis Agron with HKS and also Doug Thompson with Yates Vendime, the construction manager for the project. We've been working very diligently for the last several months, finalizing the design development drawings, and then also Yates Vendime doing the pricing, which has brought us up to this point with the project in budget with the Court of Appeals as an ad alternate, as Mr. Phillips was explaining. We'll walk through this morning if you remember back on March 22nd, we had a work session in the back conference room, walked through the interior finishes at that time. The court had several comments that you wish that we would address. I will address those at this time. We'll quickly walk through the plans, the design development plans, and then show you the latest exterior renderings. The ground floor lobby, where we have revised the terrazzo paving as you had requested, and we had also looked at again, the concerns for security and trying to maximize the number of people who would be inside and queuing going through security. I have drawings later on that will address the security to more detail. But this is the front lobby with the terrazzo patterns on the north and south of the elevator lobby, and then the terrazzo in the elevator lobby between the elevator cores going up to the grand stair, which you will see again in a moment.
Well, don't push that button yet.
Yes, sir.
Again, there's a couple of inconsistencies on the terrazzo patterns. If you look at the top, these three are all shaded. This one down here, for some reason, is not.
Correct.
Is that planned?
That was planned, yes, sir.
So we're not going to be consistent from one side to the other?
There had been a comment which we were trying to reflect back in your comments when we had the March 22nd about the interest in the lobby, and that was one of those areas. There's also a panel up at the bottom and top, which is also different. And that was something that the interior designer said, let's just make it a little bit different. Be more than happy to make it symmetrical.
You got a little orphan one up at the top.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This one down here,
That's right.
one of them are wrong, are inconsistent. I won't say they're wrong. They're just
You're correct, they are inconsistent
okay.
in those two areas.
That was going to be my question as well, to have that one little block there in the center just seems odd.
Okay.
I think you're hearing.
It's probably not a big deal to change.
No, it's not.
No, it's not a big deal at all.
That's why I'm saying now is the
Time to do it.
To vote on something today that says this.
We will be more than happy to accommodate
The
that.
other thing I thought y'all had talked about doing was bringing the patterns from inside to outside on the actual, now I know it can't be terrazzo out here, but I thought that you had talked about bringing the pattern actually outside to continue. So this would be a darker paver, and maybe these would be so that it would almost be like it was continuing into the building even though it was not.
We had talked about that at the end of schematic design. If we talked about that at March 22nd, I did not recollect that. But again, that's something that we can do. And that at the end of schematic design, in an earlier presentation, we had talked about continuing the banding to the outside. And as we later worked on the terrazzo pattern, we decided to go with a field out in front of granite instead of trying to carry the banding to the outside.
So as we're outside looking in, I guess, and I don't know how much of a tint there'll be on that glass, then it will be like a distinct, different color as you move into the deal.
That is correct. And the glass on the ground floor is clear.
So I don't know if anybody has any.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with that as much as I do with that orphan white square.
We will take care of the orphan, both of them.
Both of them?
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
And I don't care whether you make the orphan at the top white or the one at the bottom.
Yes, sir. One or the other. And the same with the one.
The anal bean counter in me just likes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can turn some block upside down, and we'll all try to catch.
Okay.
These two. So. And so I guess everyone is okay with not continuing the pattern on the outside. Okay. Nobody seems to have any heartburn over that.
Okay.
Okay.
The interior lobby, this is the same view that we showed you back in March. Again, with the stone on the back wall, the stone on the elevator core, the terrazzo floor.
And that's our little orphan square there.
Which will go away.
Well, it was actually on the wrong side.
It's on the wrong side.
It won't be the orphan.
Okay.
No, you're right. No, that was on the wrong side.
Well, actually, it doesn't look so bad.
Well, we worried about something big.
And again, the grand stair looking through the elevator lobby going up to the second floor.
And that's glass sidewalls, is that right?
Glass handrails, yes. Okay. And then here's where we get into the queuing area. There have been comments previously about the limited number of people who would be inside in the queuing. We did work with the Sheriff's Department and tried to come up with, there had been concern at that time from security about having too many people inside before going through security. Working with the Sheriff's Department, we now have about 24 to 25 who can be between the vestibule and going through the X-ray and magnometer. Sheriff was happy with this number. One thing that we did was turn the X-ray machine where it's parallel to the back wall, which actually provides a little more visibility from the sheriff's overlooking the entire lobby. So they felt that this was an improvement, even though there were more people on the inside. Of course, the remainder who would be queuing would be outside underneath the covered porch, so they would be protected from the elements. One thing that we do have is there is a, if you will, glass barrier separating those in queuing who have not yet gone through the security from the remainder of the lobby. That glass railing, if you will, is 6 feet tall at the request of the sheriffs to keep from handing items over.
You know, I understand, I wasn't real happy with the little vestibule areas, but I understand that that's a state, or that's a requirement.
That's state energy code, yes, sir.
State energy code. I'm probably equally not real excited about the glass areas as we get inside of the little 6-foot barriers as opposed to just putting, and I know that they're the little station, you know, little standards where you rope things off, because you're going to be, you know, each one of those is going to be a drilled hole in our terrazzo.
Doesn't have to be. They can be movable stanchions.
With the glass, that's what I'm saying. I would prefer the movable stanchions as opposed to the 6-foot glass, because I'm afraid that what's going to happen with 6-foot glass is that we're going to end up with a bunch of stuff stuck on it. There's going to be a notice on there that says we're closed for Memorial Day. There's going to be a notice on there that says please be sure that your weapons are all out. I mean, we're going to start, it's going to be a bulletin board.
Good point.
And I think it's just going to get to be pretty trashy looking. So, I mean, my preference would be to keep it with the little standards with the little roped off type areas, and then as security changes, then we don't have to worry about, well, we've got these holes in the floor, so let's take that up, patch those holes, and then figure out what we're going to do for the next advancement in security.
If we could come up with some other type of railing that would not be permanent other than the ropes, such as it could be movable glass that could be rearranged, that again would not be permanent and would not mar the floor. We'd just like to see something a little more permanent or have the appearance of permanence than the roped stanchions, if the court would be willing to look at that, consider that.
As I understand what you said about the sheriff's department and security, they would prefer the 6-foot wall. I appreciate the judge's concern about the holes in the floor, but if you can do it without the holes in the floor, then it would be up to facilities to make sure that nothing gets posted on that wall, and that if it does, it doesn't stay there very long.
You know, the problem is the person posting those things carry guns and the facility folks don't.
I'm not for sure that there would be a great degree of difficulty with a 6-foot high non-permanent solution, a lower 3 or 3.5 foot we could probably accommodate that would appear to be permanent, more solid, but could still be removed. And if you think about those, the glass rope or the ropes, those are completely open top and bottom. So this would be a compromise between the two.
I do think, though, that you're going to have to look at something high enough, because it's a security issue that the Sheriff's Department has identified. They don't want people handing stuff from across that. And so as we come up with a solution to that, we need to be mindful of the sheriff's security issues.
I'm not concerned about people carrying guns. They can be told, don't do that.
And I do understand that. I kind of hearken back to when we redid the sub-courthouse out there, and we asked folks not to put anything on the windows or the walls or the doors, and you can walk around now, and I guess it's just because I wasn't.
I can assure you, had you been there.
Kurt,
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming that big old firm like yours has got a graphics department.
Yes.
Why don't you have them look at some way where signage that pertain to regulatory issues, and that's what we're talking about, how it can be done, contained in some type of unit, whether it be a freestanding floor stanchion or something.
Okay.
Just have them look at it, something that's not obtrusive, so we don't have those things taped all over the windows. And this is going to be a policing effort on our part to keep that from happening. So if we can provide something that'll do that, that matches the architecture, the finishes, and all that.
So, again, I guess in summary, what I hear is that we don't like things being drilled into our floor. Right. And whatever it ends up looking like, other than that, is great.
Consensus on 4 feet, 6 feet?
Well,
Let me say this too. Sometimes if it's a terrazzo floor,
Yes, sir.
you can drill into that and it can be successfully patched where you really don't notice it. If it's just like a 1/4 inch type hole, it's really not that big a deal. So, just something to think about.
so is your preference, I would prefer to have something that is movable, that is,
I agree, but if there's no other way, I mean, I don't know how big, these things are 6 feet high.
The taller you make it,
Yeah.
then the greater depth we have to go into the floor.
Mr. Phillips
For the canopy.
is anxiously awaiting the opportunity to talk.
Let me offer this up, Judge, is to go with some movable partitions that look nice and without having drilled holes in the floor, something that's a little bit more inviting than a 6-foot-high glass. I'm concerned that when you come into the building, it certainly won't look very inviting, but it needs to be very secure as well. So I was thinking something a little lower, like the architect has recommended, that can be movable.
We're open to alternatives.
Just make
Okay.
sure that we won't negotiate security.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on? Moving on.
The second floor lobby, the entrance into the district clerk's area, again, the terrazzo floor, the stone on the elevator walls, as on the other floors. We've met with the district clerk. We've opened this up to about a 12-foot wide entry. He has had some concerns about the glass into his area, and we may revisit whether the doors are actually glass or solid. Typically, he keeps those doors open all the time, and so he was concerned with security during non-operational hours.
Okay, what's the other side? The other side is the
Goes into the high-volume courtroom.
high-volume courtroom?
Yes, sir, directly opposite that.
And will those be glass, or will those be wood?
Those will be glass, yes, as we're doing in the other courtrooms.
So all the other courtrooms are going to have glass?
Glass to be able to see in, yes.
Okay. Preference would be to keep it consistent.
That would be architecturally the preference, yes, sir.
I don't understand the objection to glass.
Come on down.
I know the architects intended for the glass to make it more opening and inviting, since the portal is somewhat smaller than what we originally signed off on last year. But when I submitted it to staff review, I had the trepidations myself, but they instantly said that that would present a potential security problem. If we ever had to button up, like if there was a shooter in the building, we have some precautions to protect our staff, but that means locking the front door. And if the front door is glass, you have less time to take the other actions, which I would prefer not to go into an open court here. But if they're solid doors, then we have some additional time before somebody could get through the door. We had one instance of that here a few years ago, and we do have things in place down in the Justice Center and the Family Law Center which have solid doors, and for our staff to be somewhere else rather quickly.
So, Tom, under that rationale, then we would have no glass doors in the building? Is that correct?
I personally, for mine, again, because for the reasons I've given you, I would rather see solid doors.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think I'd prefer the glass. I mean, I can understand them coming after you.
Well,
but I think they're more likely to go after some of the judges before they come after you.
If we put your name under that district clerk, would that make you happy if we could go with the glass?
You know, again, it is
I do understand your
something that's a matter of concern, and I don't know why the glass would be that big a deal, because we open up the doors and leave them open, during the day anyway, just like we do in the Justice Center and down here. So it's going to be very open and inviting because you're going to have air there. It'll be wide open, and we certainly want that from an aesthetic standpoint. But I would rather not give up the security. And again, staff, they jumped on that right away. So
If the door is going to be open, what difference does it make when it's...
because you can shut it very quickly, Commissioner.
Well, but the
and then
glass
it's
panels
solid.
on either side are going to...
No, we asked for solid, just like we have in the Justice Center and the Family Law Center. Solid fronts, those doors open, and then you've got the entryway is just wide open to the public. We would respectfully ask that
We're
we...
going to spend the rest of the day here if we re-engineer and redesign everything we paid these people to do. I disagree.
We didn't ask for
leave
the glass.
there and move forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I don't hear a great, keep the glass.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The public lobbies on levels 3 through 5 where the district courtrooms are located. You have seen this rendering previously, with the exception that there had been a request that we add backs to the benches, and this shows the backs added to the benches.
One question with regards to, I mean, I like the benches as they look right now. In concern of where will the padded backs, how much more difficult? I mean, I can see us having to replace the pads ever so often. The ones that are seats, I think, would be much easier to replace than those backs. If we made the backs wood, or is it just not that hard to replace those padded backs?
We would be, like the seats, would be using the faux leather, and those hold up very well. But again, those can be attached on the back. We can be able to pull the backs off and replace them. So it's not any more of an issue than replacing the material on the seats.
Hey, Kurt, and those are wood?
Yep.
Okay. Those seats are, the framing is...
The frames are actually metal.
The frame is metal, it's not wood.
Excuse me. It is a wood frame with the circles that you see there are metal. So it's a combination of wood and metal.
But the trim is wood?
Yes, sir.
Any particular kind?
The wood will match the finish of the other wood in the courtroom.
It's going to be a Texas pine.
I hope not.
The other wood is a walnut.
Okay, thank you.
Looks good, Kurt.
Is it a solid or veneer? Or does it matter?
Here,
I think it matters.
it would be solid.
Okay.
In the courtrooms for like the fronts and so forth, those are veneer. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
And then, speaking of the courtrooms, here we are. The district courtrooms, there are 12 of them, 4 on each floor. This is a similar drawing that you had seen previously. However, since that meeting in March, the Judicial Advisory Committee had met again and requested that we add gates separating the well from the spectator area, and also requested up at the judge's bench a wooden shelf that would go across the front so that when attorneys are approaching the judge, they would have something to lay their documents on. As I think many of you know, last week, several of the judges, representative of the design team, facilities, and IT, attended a courts technology conference, and we got very good input, discussions back and forth as to what the technology within the courtroom will be, and we'll be finalizing that in the next several weeks.
I don't have a problem with the gates. I think that they are probably traditional in courtrooms, but it's also fairly traditional for them to sag in the middle.
We will try to avoid that.
Any number of comments come to mind, but let's go on.
And then the lobby on the 6th floor.
Again, commissioners.
Yeah, with age, we all sag a little bit, don't we?
Again, you've previously seen this rendering. And then in the...
I want to go back to that. A question that I had on that is the bailiffs stand there. I mean, if somebody's coming off to the elevator, they're probably going to go to the left and go into that. It would seem like if that bailiff is there to kind of act as protection or to act as a filter for folks getting into that area, we've got that stand at the wrong end.
this was discussed with the Court of Appeals and the bailiff there. They like having the bailiff in this location because basically the bailiff is, for lack of a better word, the traffic policeman. And the court only meets a couple of times a week, and at that time, the bailiff would be moving toward the courtroom. In this location, the bailiff is outside the doors to the clerk's area, which actually gets the higher volume of people going in during the week. So he is actually able to look over.
So he is actually going to be at the place where he needs to be. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And then in the Court of Appeals, since their last presentation, we've been working with the Court of Appeals. They wanted the color of the wood to be a little more closely aligned with the color of the wood in their existing courtroom, and so we've changed the stain on that, and have also lowered the wood paneling on the sidewalls from full-height wood paneling to just a wood wainscot, again, at their request. The plan of the courtroom is basically a duplicate of their existing Court of Appeals courtroom, where they are very happy.
They currently have 7, and
they
you have the ability to
do
grow
9.
that to 9.
Yes, the bench right now will accommodate, which we are basically taking in plan, will accommodate 9. So even though 7 are shown here, it will accommodate the 9 future judges, the 2 additional judges. Okay. Ooh, these are bleached out. Go quickly through the plans. The basement plan is basically the full size of the floors above with secure parking, and then the mechanical areas as well as building storage. There are two elevators for staff and judges which come down to this level, as well as the freight elevator.
Is that 36 parking spots?
26.
26.
Yes.
Okay, how do
Whoops, I'm sorry.
how do those get, I guess that's not your problem. But
we were provided the number.
How do they get allocated?
And I guess the other question is we've got 26, but we've really only got 24 unless we declare 2 of the judges to be disabled.
That is correct.
Physically or mentally.
That is correct.
To put into those 2 spots. So those 2 spots are going to, for all intents and purposes, remain vacant. I'm assuming that ADA requires us to have
yes, sir.
A couple down there.
Correct.
But we can't assign those even though everybody down there is supposed to have an assigned place.
Sure. Yeah.
That's an answer. I'm looking, that was a question, that wasn't a statement.
Those could be assigned however one would want to.
David was about to stand up and say, have we picked the 2 judges we're going to assign to those disabled spots yet?
I've got a couple of weeks to call aside.
Okay, just.
Okay. Again, the first floor area, which is basically the public lobby, the jury services to the north, to the right of jury services is loading dock, including dumpster. To the south, we have public vending area and also the attorney's lounge, and we have the driveway, the ramp down to the basement, to the secure parking. Floor plan level 2, again, most of the floor is given over to the district clerk. The high-volume courtroom is on the south side, and also on the south side is the 8th administrative area.
Now, the district clerk's area goes all the way back to this area right over here at the bottom?
Yes, sir.
So that area goes all the way to right here?
Correct.
And then these are secured, this area is secured off right here?
Yes, sir.
And then this is what you're saying, this is the administrative area?
The 8th admin, yes, sir.
Administrative area. And then we have very little space. Nobody's going to nest into this space with this one.
There's a robing room, and that's it.
Okay.
Floor plans, levels 3 through 5. Again, 4 courtrooms per floor with 4 sets of judicial chambers outside of each courtroom.
A couple of questions there. I'm assuming that these little things right here are just your little architectural.
Yes, sir. Playing off the curve of the building. That is correct.
And then in each one of the courtrooms, we have off of what appears to be a very public part of the courtrooms.
Yes, sir.
A door that goes back in the secure area.
And that was a request of the judges. If you look just to the other side of the wall is the bailiff station. And the concern is that sometime when a court is, just to your right, that's the bailiff station. And that sometimes when a court is in session, an attorney may come in wanting to see, say, the court coordinator, and the bailiff cannot get up and leave the courtroom. So the idea would be the bailiff could call the court coordinator and say that an attorney is coming back to your area, and the bailiff could direct the attorney through that door. You could basically unlock the door electronically so that the attorney does not have to go back out of the courtroom and circulate all the way around. So it's more direct access.
You're not going to make an electronic ability to unlock that door from there.
Yes, sir.
So then anybody who comes into the courtroom can move into the secured area by simply, if the bailiff is not there, they're going to be able to move into a secured area without anybody wanting them to be in there.
Ideally, no one would be, with the bailiff is to be in the courtroom all of the time. And so if the bailiff is not there, the courtroom door would be locked.
But
From the
outside
outside.
the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
It just seems like we're doing an awful lot to keep them out of the secured area, and then we're opening a door right out of the public area that moves them into that. And all the judges are okay with that?
Yes, sir.
And they're okay with the electronic?
That's the way it would work. Yes, sir.
I'm not as excited about that as they are, because I know what's going to happen is the bailiff is not going to lock the door. People are going to come in, and they're going to figure out that's their way into the...
Well, the door would always be locked unless the bailiff unlocks it remotely.
Well, except that if the door is not locked into the courtroom and the bailiff isn't there, then they're going to be able to move from there into the...
Theoretically, yes, sir.
We'll change that before it's over with.
Perhaps one way to deal with that problem is to put some sort of a locking device over the judge's, over the bailiff's electronic button, so that if he's not there, it doesn't work.
Possible.
I guess the other question is, if he's going to call the coordinator and tell them that there's somebody coming back that area, why don't they just go out of the courtroom and go back to the door on the side?
I think they were trying to be more user-friendly than having them go back outside of the courtroom and go around.
Okay.
Judge, I think I can speak to it. I think that when we looked at the traffic patterns and how attorneys would use it, that we felt that it would be facilitate people getting back to the secured area of the chambers easier if that access was by the bailiff. I don't think any of the judges have an objection to that door being lockable when the bailiff is not in position.
If somebody was coming in, Judge, they come in, they're checking in with the bailiff, they tell them that. If the bailiff agrees with what they're doing, then why don't they the bailiff just simply let them in that door right there on the side? As opposed to saying, okay, now you've got to go all the way over here. Why can't they just...
There's some other access issues on that pattern that sends them back around the backside. We felt like from where the positioning of the court coordinators would be and where their windows would be, we'd be able to better control that access with that door there. It has some facility, it has some ease for the staff there, but that door can certainly be locked when the bailiff is not present.
So these are the coordinators?
They're in that area.
In the corner, sir.
They're in the corner there, Judge, to the south. That would probably...
No. Down to your right. 2 rooms.
The coordinator, one more.
One more. There.
Coordinator is there, and that's the entrance in, and that'll be the entrance into the chambers. The other coordinator is on the other side.
Okay, so help me understand. Somebody's coming in here. in this courtroom.
Yes.
And you're saying the coordinator's here?
We have some storage areas also, Judge, where exhibits may be located directly opposite that door.
Where is the door to get in here? I mean, you have to come all the way around to here to get in here?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
That's the current plan.
Okay. Let's see that on this.
The door that you first mentioned that was next to the bailiff, that goes back into the jury deliberation area, and one really doesn't want attorneys going through the jury deliberation area.
And this door, which is the door in question, would be locked all the time
All the time, yes, sir.
unless the bailiff opens.
Correct.
Okay. Sixth floor.
Sixth floor, again, in the very center is the Court of Appeals courtroom, which the layout is a duplicate of their existing courtroom, which they appreciated. To the south of the elevator core is the district clerk area, or is the clerk area for the Court of Appeals, and then judicial chambers around the exterior perimeter walls.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Okay. And finally, two exterior views. The view from the southwest corner looking to the northeast. This is from Weatherford, basically taken in front of the Family Law Center. Looking back at the building, this design is what you have been seeing previously. The front facade, of course, is curved on axis with the historic 1895 courthouse. The front is basically the Texas Sunset red granite that we have on the courthouse and also on the Family Law Center. Two angels have been removed from the existing civil courts building and are now in storage, ready to be reinstalled on the new civil courts building. On the sides, you have a reddish brick. Again, the mock-ups or the actual materials are over on the corner of Block 11, and hopefully you've been over to see the granite and the red brick that we have there, and also the glass. Again, we're fairly traditional here on the, especially when you see the sides, where we have the granite base for the first floor, the public areas. Then for the second floor, for the district clerk and high volume area, again, it's a continuation of the base coming up, but also merging the middle floors into that. So the second floor becomes the transition area. And then levels 3, 4, and 5 really become the middle of the building with articulation. The windows are similar to bay windows that we see on a lot of the downtown buildings. And then the top floor becomes, with the granite columns, pilasters, again becomes the capitol or the top of the building. So again, employing traditional materials and a contextual building in downtown Fort Worth.
With the overhang, how difficult is that going to make the cleaning of the windows, both at the 7th floor or the 6th floor level, as well as the lower floors? Are they going to have to swing? Are they going to still come down from the very roof? And
yes, sir. And then go
the
out.
overhang is not going to be a problem as far as any.
No, sir. And that's fairly common today to be able to do that. So that's not an issue.
Any other questions?
Should we decide to build out the top floor, will this finally be the final home of the Second Court of Appeals?
For now.
Until they decide someplace else, or until we build something else, or until Denton County decides they want to become the home of the Second Court of Appeals and start paying for it. Just a little comments there. Any other pertinent questions to the building? Well, there's a few other counties that are supposed to be in the mix. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next step is for the Commissioners Court to approve the design development and the total capital budget for the project so the project team can move forward with finalizing the documents to bid and construct the building.
So what did you hear that we still have questions about? Or not questions, but we want changes?
Terrazzo pattern, security entry.
I think that was it. Anybody? Okay.
Subject to those two items, I move approval of the design, development, and the total capital budget.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Second. Any questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you very much, Mr. That's the hardest thing to do in this county the last long time. I'm proud of it. Thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate all your work as well as the judges, and I see Judge McCoy back there. I mean, I know that everyone has worked hard on this and has spent a lot of time. Tom, we appreciate your work with your department, and David and everyone really for the effort that they put into this. Jury services, everyone. So thank you very much. Mr. Manius.
Members of the court, if we could go to item B, this is an update on the legislative issues. As each of you probably know by now, the legislature sine died yesterday, and they are now back in special session dealing with, I believe, Medicaid and also the budget. Apparently, SB 1811, which was the school finance piece of the budget, did not pass yesterday. There was a filibuster on the floor of the Senate which killed that particular bill. The governor has called them back in, and currently there are only 2 items on the call. One thing I would like to point out is that we have given you a memorandum from Mr. Mendez. The vast majority of that memorandum speaks to the bills that we moved forward with at the beginning, and Mr. Mendez has done an excellent job, and a vast majority of our bills are on the governor's desk waiting to be signed. And with that, I'll attempt to answer any questions you may have as it relates to that memo.
The Senate's got about 8 or 9 bills that they assigned this morning. So I think they may have ventured out a little bit beyond just the Medicaid and then the school finance. Somebody, I thought it reported that they might have thrown redistricting into that, but I'm not sure yet that that's occurred or not. But
the two that came on the call for this morning was activities related to the fiscal matters and the state budget, and then the second one was containing cost in health care and Medicaid.
And what is the proposal regarding Medicaid?
I don't have that answer, Commissioner. We can find that out. But literally, there was legislation that was moving through that I believe what it was.
Medicaid died in the House.
Yeah, and it was the Senate bill that they were looking at moving forward with again.
So so we'll just have to kind of say apparently they were supposed to come back in session at 10, and the Senate at least was going to be trying to, before 10, decide whether they were going to move this through pretty rapidly or whether they were simply going to, or whether they were going to slow down and wait for some other stuff.
It's my understanding that in a special session, the 2/3 rule in the Senate does not exist for bringing legislation up. So. That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
This time we'll recess our open session, move to closed session to discuss items exempted under Texas Government Code, under sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Code. Say again. Having returned from our closed session and there being no business at this time, we'll stand adjourned, and we're going, in addition to the private who we were closing in memory of, we're also going to add Judge John Street to that. We're adjourned.
There you go.